Today we have Vice President Reid Tattersall on the phone with us. He is going to go through a demonstration of our Producer's Place. This is our proprietary case management software. We have carriers who work with other broker general agencies that have seen our portal, and to the day, not one of them has seen anything like what we have out there in the industry. Through our portal, you'll be able to access live case statuses from your desktop, your tablet, or even your smartphone. You'll not have to call a carrier and sit on hold to find out what's going on with your case. So, here we go.
Hi, this is Reid Tattersall. I'm a certified financial planner and a chartered life underwriter, and I've been with BackNine for 7 years. It's often said that some of the best salespeople are the least organized, and regardless of where you fall, if you're still using paper files or if you use some sort of specialized CRM like Salesforce or ACT or Redtail, this tool should simplify the selling of insurance for you. So instead of having to manage all the paper files, we're going to handle all that for you. So any case that you send to BackNine is going to be available within your portal. And by the way, there's no cost for this. So I'm going to just go through some of the basic things in the portal, and then we can take any questions at the end. So I can click my cases, and this is a depository of all your cases. It's going to default to your pending business, but you can log in and see your active and inactive policies as well. So I'm going to take a look at one client right here. And I'm going to see what they applied for. This is policy number. Here's the commissions, applied for, premium. We'll put in all the conversion expiration dates once that policy goes in force. So again, another source to look at, hey, when is the conversion period coming up? You're able to chat with your case manager right here. And in real time, that's going to send her a message, and she can respond right back to you within the portal. You'll also receive an email, so you don't always have to be actively checking this. Down below, we have all your contract parties. So we'll have your insureds, your beneficiaries, your owners. And with 4 of our companies right now, those being Lincoln, MetLife, John Hancock, and Prudential, we have in-force data. And what that means is you'll see current beneficiaries, current ownership, current cash values, death benefits. We'll also put all your documents in here. So if you ever need to pull up an application or the exam or additional pieces that were sent along with that, that's stored here indefinitely. And we can also view all the requirements. So as I want to see, hey, what exactly has happened over the course of this case? This case has taken 100 days, which is way over our expectation for when cases should be done. And I can see at this last step, looks like 2 days ago, policy sent to issue areas, and he's going to follow up in another day. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at an active case real quick, and that way you guys can see some of the in-force data. Oh, excuse me. So here's a nice sample case. This is a cash accumulation design policy. And down below, we'll see, hey, who's the insured, who's the owner of this policy. I can take a look at financial transactions. So, hey, the last cost of insurance came out this date. All the premiums will also be logged into here. I can take a look at the allocations. This is an index policy, so I can see exactly the underlying assets. I should be able to take a look at all the policy values. So I can take a look at current death benefits, account values, surrender values, etc. And that's about it on the case. Now, I believe there's 2 other pieces that I want to walk you through just as this basic tutorial. The first is quotes, or excuse me, the second is quotes. We provide quotes for every line of insurance, but for today, we're just going to go into life insurance quotes. So all we're doing here is on the left-hand side, and if this isn't showing up, it's because you're on a smaller screen. So on an iPhone, it may look like this, and you can just hit this button. You're going to hit Quotes, Life, Quotes. It's going to open a new tab. So Jesse just talked to you about various types of life insurance, and I'm sure he talked to you about term and probably some universal life. So, hey, I got a guy, and I want to know how much it's going to cost. Or maybe you have that individual on the phone with you, and on the spot you want to show them what it costs, or even do a screen share. So I'm going to say this guy's birthday is January 2nd, 1955. Got a 60-year-old male. He's interested in $500,000. He's going to pay annually. And he's asking for 10 and 15-year term, but I want to also go ahead and talk to him about guarantee UL. So I'm going to check that box. If you've already talked to him about underwriting classes, you can, or his health, he's probably not going to know his underwriting class. You can go ahead and choose an underwriting class. If you're really unsure, or he mentioned some specifics that you think, hey, this could be a red flag, you can use this tool right here, Enter Health Profile. And the first question here is just height and weight. So you can say, hey, I have a 5'10" individual who weighs 265 pounds. So you say, that may be on the heavy side. I'm going to put it through this calculator. And what it's going to do is it's going to rank each of the carrier's underwriting guidelines and give you an accurate quote based on the underwriting class that we've basically specified through this tool. If you have some other questions not related to height and weight, you can click this link. I'm not going to do it now, but it will go into anything that's basically published from the carrier's underwriting guidelines. And that would be cholesterol, that would be family history, that would be driving history, and blood pressure. Those are the things that it does really well at. If you got someone who had cancer a couple years ago, and depending on the stage and the grade and the treatment, that there's not any sort of automated instant quoting engine to give you the answer you're looking for. I'm going to view all quotes. You can feel free to put a client name on here if you want that. And give it a couple more seconds. Here we go. So I didn't put in any sort of underwriting class. All I did is tell the system, hey, this guy's 5'10" and 265 pounds. So the system is going to take a look at Prudentials and Protectives and Lincolns and all the carriers' underwriting classes and say, hey, what's the best underwriting class that this individual can get? So when you're on the phone with the client, you can basically just show them, hey, here's all the carriers that are willing to offer you insurance and what the pricing is going to be. So you could talk to clients now about conversion and financial strength and some of the other things. But if your client isn't on the phone and you're not ready to get there, the next piece that I typically do is I will check the boxes that I want to show the client. Because I'm not going to show this client all 25 carriers for 10-year term insurance that's available to him. What I'm going to do is I'm going to end up keeping it simple. And I love Protective, but just for this example, let's say I didn't like Protective. I don't want to show Protective. Let's say I didn't like Prudential for some reason, or I couldn't write with Prudential. I'm just not going to check it. So I'm going to hit Protective, I'm going to say, and I'm also going to say Lincoln, okay? Then I'm going to go down and I'm going to go to the 15-year section. I'm going to say I want to show Protective again, and to keep this simple, I'm just going to show Lincoln again. And then I'm going to go down to the guarantee UL. I'm going to say, I'm going to take a look at this Protective policy and this Lincoln policy. So I'm going to go to the top very gracefully and hit Compare Checked. So I can take a look at my carriers. This will only take about 8 carriers. I would recommend 6 or less to make the page less confusing for your client. I'm going to hit Print Quote, or I can feel free to just email that right to my client. And this is going to load this PDF right here. And I can email this off to my client. I can print this and bring it to my meeting, and I can talk to him and say, hey, you talked about $500,000. We talked about your build. Here's kind of what's available from the entire market. So that's pretty easy. Anytime you have a term or guarantee UL quote, we would recommend that you just hop onto the website because it's so easy and do it. But we're also more than available. We have a full sales desk that's here to help you run these illustrations, just run them on your behalf and email them to you. So any way you want to work, if you're kind of a do-it-yourself type of individual or not, we'd be happy to work with you. All right, so there's one more piece that I'm going to walk through. And we kind of touched on underwriting. And we said that that tool worked really well in situations when it was kind of a black and white thing, like the individual has a billed issue and the carrier has a published billed issue. But on more complex issues, my client had a heart attack, my client had a stroke, they have diabetes, they have hepatitis. Depending on what the issue is, if it's something that the carrier doesn't have published guidelines on, we can use this quick quote tool. So it's only for life right now, but we'll end up releasing it for long-term care and disability shortly. And this is a 5-step wizard to get underwriting offers from all the carriers. So I'm going to say, I'm going to do this for myself. And I'm going to say I got, a sample client. And I'm going to say he's 60 years old. We have a male, and the state is in California. What's the impairment? Well, we're going to say the impairment is diabetes. And I'm going to say it's type 2. The age of onset. So if he's 60 now, let's say he's been dealing with this since he's 55. And he is controlling this via diet, medication, and metformin, which is a, RX for diabetes. Okay. What other information do I want to include? And you can work with our marketing managers here to help you ask the right questions. We have a whole set of forms, so regardless of which condition it is, it will ask you the correct forms. If you're new to any of this and your client says you have diabetes or he has diabetes, you probably don't know the right questions to ask. Well, there are some questions that you need to ask in order to get an underwriting offer, an accurate underwriting offer. And that would be, what's his A1C score, which is a metric of how under control his diabetes is. So we try to provide as much information as possible and complete information, because when this gets sent off, an underwriter at each carrier ends up looking at this. So we try to obviously not waste their time. And also still have the privilege of using the system. So I'm going to say his last A1C score was 6.5. And that should be enough for the carrier to give us a quote. This guy's 60 years old, type 2 diabetic. He found out he was type 2 at age 55. Here's how he's controlling it, and here's how well it's controlled. I can put in multiple, impairments here, but I'm not. This page is optional, so don't feel like you have to have all this information, but you can. So I can say, hey, this guy is 5'10" and 220 pounds. Sorry, 220 pounds. He's a non-tobacco user. And family history is something big that most carriers look at. So if you can get in the habit of asking, are your parents still around? That's a great question to ask just from a sales perspective, right? Because when you're planning, particularly with permanent insurance or even term insurance, and you say, how long was your dad around, or is your dad still around? And he says, well, my dad died at 70 due to a heart attack, and my mom had cancer and she died at 72. Well, how long do you need to plan for this individual's life expectancy? So talking about the parents is going to bring up some possibly uncomfortable but good questions that you could ask to kind of further plan for your client. And also, based on the family history, each carrier will, underwrite that a little bit differently. Coverage type. So I can say, hey, this is going to be term, this is going to be some form of permanent insurance, or I really don't know. It could be both. I'm going to put in a death benefit of $100,000 and then an LTC or chronic illness rider. I'll skip over that, say yes. It's going to pre-select the carriers that I can send to. I'm not going to send it because it's going to send a real response. When I hit next, an individual email is going to go out to all those carriers. When the carriers get back to you, you'll be notified via email, but also you're able to click an impairment here, see what you sent the carrier, and then see all the underwriting offers that came back. So I'm going to